Hello, everybody. A warm namaskara from Bengaluru. Cardiac imaging is exciting. Congenital heart disease is a challenge in medical practice. The combination of both in niche adult cardiology must be thrilling. I am Dr. Madhav Hegde, taking you through this session of cardiac imaging with a focus on cardiac CT. My acknowledgements to patients, my colleagues, and open source. I don't have any relevant disclosures to make. All of us, we understand the limitations of echo in terms of habitus or the complex morphology of chambers in congenital heart disease. We have regular two questions in the practice. Will I choose CT or will I choose MR? Are there any extra cardiac or extra thoracic causes? We will try to answer these questions in the next few minutes. Learning objectives are threefold. One is to understand the clinical settings and the specific scenarios where we choose CT or MRI. Understanding CT as the first or the second modality of choice. Third, the strength and the limitations. We are not going to cover the functional assessment or the assessment of valves using CT in this talk. Outline of the talk. Initially, we will discuss about the role of the CT. It is the preferred modality when we want structural informations and the functional informations have been received using echo or MR. Whenever extracardiac structures are the focus of imaging, CT is the preferred modality. And the scenarios where optimal image quality may not be obtained from MRI, CT would be the preferred modality. And whenever we need quick assessment, CT will score over MRI. However, in general, MR is the investigation of choice for assessment of cardiac abnormalities. When it comes to extracardiac structures like great arteries, coronaries, lungs, and rest of the thorax, CT is the preferred modality. All surgical shunts and switches, CT serves very well. And in case of baffles, MRI is the modality of choice. And when it comes to spectrum of clinical setting, we come across three categories. The first category is related to diagnostic workup. And in that, small group is accounted by lesions like PAPVC, which are incidentally detected or so far had remained unsuspected before CT. This is one of those examples where you can see partial anomalous pulmonary vein draining into SVC. So any vascular structure draining into SVC on the lateral or the anterior aspect indicates PAPVC. Only normal structure which drains into the posterior aspect is azygous vein with respect to SVC. Second similar entity is ostium secundum AST. The diagnosis of ostium secundum AST in CT is tricky as well as inconsistent. However, in this case, we were fortunate enough to diagnose the defect as well as able to see the intact portions of the septum. However, CT does the diagnosis of sinus venosus anomaly very consistently. You can also see the relation of the pulmonary veins and the LA and the posterior aspect of SVC or SVC-RA junction as in this case. The second set of scenario is to get crisp structural details after the interrogation with echo or the clinical evaluation. Examples are the situation where additional muscular VST is suspected because on many occasions during the transthoracic echo, apical VSTs may be missed. This is a pediatric scenario where CT has imaged the interventricular septum effectively. Coarctation of aorta, one can see the membrane as well as the shelf-like appearance, pre and post-coarct segments, hypoplasia if any, and the associated collaterals or aneurysms, which is not seen in this case. In case of pulmonary artery stenosis, we can describe it with respect to the number of foci of stenosis, whether it is segmental, discrete, or regional, or diffuse. MRI is also helpful. However, the details are not as crisp as one gets in CT. Calcification is frenemy in CT. When it occurs in smaller structures like coronary arteries, it obscures the details. However, on occasions, it indicates the possible site of pathology and possible etiology. This patient presented with tough physiology, and I was very surprised to see numerous moderate to large calibered collaterals. They were originating from aorta, and to my surprise, rest of the aorta was normal. There was no coarctation, and the venous structures were normal, indicating that it is not venous collaterals either. So it is collaterals due to RVOT obstruction. However, CT is not a great modality when it comes to imaging of cardia per se. This is a scenario where patient presented with cyanosis and was initially evaluated by physician dealing in adult cardiology, and subsequently CT was done, and during my prospective initial evaluation, I was not able to diagnose the hypoplastic right ventricle. However, the same was confirmed by a pediatric cardiologist during echo, and in hindsight, it was an easy diagnosis. However, there is a comparison image to show that whenever there is LV hypertrophy, as in case of HOCM, RV appears small even though it is apparent hypoplasia. This is a true case of hypoplasia due to tricuspid atresia. All these changes are better seen on MRI, and the message is that for cardiac abnormality, MRI is the preferred modality. Continuing our understanding on the extracardiac abnormalities, one can see the heart on the right of the vertebra indicating the laterality. The septum, interventriculum, and interatrial are normal. Bronchi are very easily seen. Both the sides, they appear to have high arterial course. Polysplenia is noted. Liver is seen. You can see the collaterals, and you can easily assess the RVOT with respect to the coronary arteries. When it comes to coronaries, CT is the preferred investigation, irrespective of the size, whether in the adults or in the child. We can evaluate the coronary arteries efficiently. This is a dilated RCA with cameral fistula. This is the single coronary artery, Lipton type 3, LCX here and LAD here. And this is the case of Alcapa, LMCA originating from main pulmonary artery. Whenever the abnormalities or the structures are smaller, CT is preferred. However, even the abnormalities are larger and extracardiac in nature, MR may not be the optimal modality of choice. Veins, arteries, and the bronchi or the trachea, they appear dark on many of the sequences. And the structural details, what we obtain in MRI, may not be as good as CT. The next important category of diagnostic workup is the evaluation of pulmonary hypertension. On many occasions, PDA will not be adequately assessed on transthoracic echo or altogether overlooked. However, CT does it very comfortably, and one can easily diagnose PDA both on axial images, sagittal images, as well as volume rendered images. This is yet another example of evaluation of pulmonary hypertension, dilated pulmonary arteries, the dilated RA-RV, and one can see the interatrial septum with the defect. On occasions, there are only soft signs or the indirect markers, as in this case, left retroaortic innominate vein, or the dilated arteries in comparison with the associated bronchi. This is yet another case of retroaortic left innominate vein evaluated on plane. So the message is that even with the changes in the vasculature and in the absence of lung abnormality, we may think of intracardiac shunts, particularly the possibility of AST, having ruled out the rest of the extracardiac shunts and VST. Yet another example of evaluation of pulmonary arteries, PAPVC, and associated sinus venosus SVC type and the intact interatrial septum. Rare type of sinus venosus anomaly, that is the IVC type, is the cause of pulmonary hypertension in this case. In practice, however, we note the diseases occur in combination. This is the previous image we have noted earlier, and this was a more of an incidental finding, as the associated findings were heterogeneous appearance in the lungs and the narrowed interlobar arteries on both the sides, indicating the sequel of chronic pulmonary thromboembolism as the cause of pulmonary hypertension. The next important category of investigations is the assessment of patients before the intervention or open surgical procedures. This is a case of coarctation of aorta. You can see the narrowed segment, associated left subclavian ostium in relation to the cork segment. The same can be assessed in the coronaries. The length can be assessed, and with respect to possible stenting and the landing zones can be assessed using the CT. You can also see the left internal mammary artery is not dilated, whereas on the right it is hypertrophied because of the fact that the left subclavian ostium is involved in the cork segment, so-called subclavian capture. Associated hypoplasia in different case of coarctation. And before open surgery, as in case of TOF, one can easily assess the relation of coronary arteries with respect to RVOT. Not very frequent to find this residual VSD or residual hypertrophy of the RVOT. And in this case, these two findings necessitated the redo surgery, and the surgeon can also get the adequate information of retrosternal space during the CT. If it is a case of bicuspid aortic valve planned for aortic valve replacement, one can also get the information regarding the possibility of minimally invasive cardiac surgery. One needs to assess the relation of sternum and the ascending aorta and the possibility of reaching it through second or third intercostal space. All shunts, may it be arteriovenous or veno-arterial, can adequately assessed with CT. This is the case of Sano shunt on plain as well as contrast images. MRI reasonably does it well. However, all extracardiac conduit are better imaged on CT rather than MR, whereas all baffles are better imaged on MRI. Following the TOF repair for the assessment of the RV, MR is the preferred modality. You can see the dilated arteries as well as the RVOT. However, if the plan is to go ahead with the percutaneous pulmonary valve implantation, CT is the preferred modality for the assessment. Following the stenting, one can assess the integrity of the stents or their positions, and to confirm the patency or to rule out the stenosis following stenting. This is yet another example of stent in the pulmonary artery. One can confirm the patency of the stent in various planes. The very nature of artifacts because of the stent will render the evaluation of MR more or less effective compared to CT in case of these stents. Because of the disease itself or the interventions, patients with congenital heart disease are prone for arrhythmias. So before the therapy with electrophysiological methods are considered, it is important to evaluate the venous anatomy or the venous baffles before the procedures. Third, and the small set of patients have complications related to the disease or the procedure itself. They are not specific to congenital heart disease in adults. However, these are common complications we come across in terms of thrombosis or because of vegetations leading on to aneurysm and hemoptysis in this case. So the take-home points are: first choice of imaging when structural imaging of high spatial resolution is needed, CT is the choice. And CT is the second choice for one-time volume assessment when MRI is not practical choice. Serves the best for extracardiac lesions, first choice of imaging in coronary arteries, and evaluation of pulmonary hypertension. Thank you, one and all.